Iconic Motorbikes, we get to see some of the world's coolest and most interesting motorcycles on a pretty regular basis. But this one in front of me actually kind of leaves me speechless. I don't think I'm going to see one of these in the flesh ever again. And so I wanted to make sure that I took a few minutes out of my day to share it with you guys and point out some of the things that I think are pretty interesting about it. Let's start with what it's called, okay? It's an Aston Martin AMB 001. Production is limited to just 100 units, and it's built in conjunction with or in collaboration with Brough Superior. So on paper, those are two very, I guess, storied British names, Aston Martin and Brough Superior. What you may not know is Brough nowadays is actually a French company. It is out of Toulouse, and it was kind of taken over, or I guess the revival happened with a gentleman that used to be the CEO of Boxer Design. And so now they're creating motorcycles under the Brough Superior name, but also this limited collaboration with Aston Martin. So I've got the very fancy and beautiful owner's guide with me, and I'm going to use this as a reference to kind of point out some stuff. But I think really the main two things about it, just visually, are the engine and the bodywork. So I'll start talking about the bodywork first, and then we'll get into some more technical details. We'll start up front. So this is normally I'd say like a headlight cowl or something like that, but there's actually no headlight on this bike. It is for track use only. So no light up front, but this very interesting cowl. And with all the bodywork, well, I say all of it, there's really just two pieces because this whole thing here is actually one piece. But with all the carbon fiber that's on this, the paint scheme is kind of the same in that it starts brightest up top and then eventually fades to no color and just gloss exposed carbon. Even when you have peak color, I mean, in the sun, this thing really pops. It's absolutely gorgeous. When you have peak color, you can still see the weave of the carbon fiber there. I've seen photos of 3 different colors. One's a light blue, one's a red, and then this one, which if you're a fan of Aston Martin, you probably know this is a pretty traditional, or yeah, I mean, it's a pretty traditional green for them, kind of like British racing green. So the bodywork, like I said, all carbon fiber. The tail section here is this, I mean, there's just like a leather strap here for a seat here, and when you pop this open, that's actually how you unveil or reveal the fuel filler cap when you want to put fuel into it. And fuel is kind of a crazy thing. All the fluids are pretty crazy on this. It's actually one of the reasons it took us a little bit of time to get the service work done. And I should qualify this by saying this was not for sale on our auction site or anything like that. A client of ours brought this in, had us do some service work to it, and I just wanted to share it before it goes back to its home. So anyway, the fuel runs on basically 98% ethanol, which if you're in California, that means you're associated with that, you know, clogging up carbs and things like that and sucking out moisture from the air. So when we did a test ride on it, and we'll show a video of that in just a moment, when we did a test ride on it, we basically tried to drain out as much of the fuel as we could. The other thing, when it comes to the fluids like hydraulic fluid and oil and things like that, Aston Martin / Brough requires ELF fluids, another French company, for all their work. So we had to get that imported to work on this. Looking back here, I mentioned there was no headlight, but there is a tail light in the sense of it's not a brake light, it's not connected to the brakes, but a tail light, almost like a rain light out on the track. Here's your ignition switch down here. And it's pretty bright out here. I don't know how well you can see this, but basically there's an LED panel that lights up and kind of reflects inside that whole piece there to act as a rain light, which I think is a pretty cool detail. All right, speaking of details, let me just share a couple of things with you. First, that V-twin engine, 997 cc's. It's been turbocharged. It makes 180 horsepower, and the whole thing weighs 180 kilograms dry, which is about 396 pounds. As we look towards the front of the bike, or imagine, you can actually kind of visualize yourself sitting on this. It's not exactly the most comfortable bike in the world. There is quite a bit of lean and quite a bit of reach here. But when you're looking at the dash and the bars and things like that, it's got this interesting double layer to it where they try to make the tops of the master cylinders flush with it. It's a styling element that I think is pretty cool. There's adjustment for traction control, buttons there. Your starter and simple controls are all here on the right. Billet levers, there's a lot of billet CNC aluminum throughout the entire bike. We'll show you some examples of that. And then this quote unquote dash is just 3 lights. There's an oil pressure or an oil level warning, that's the red, the yellow is fuel, and then green is your neutral indicator. That seems like a sparse dash, and it is a sparse dash. That's because the actual dash, well, it's done on your phone. The phone is connected via Bluetooth to the bike, and it shows you some basics, you know, what gear you're in, what speed you're doing, what the revs are, that kind of thing. And it just mounts right here on this little plaque. So it's kind of interesting. The design, the UI of the phone is designed to incorporate this cutout, so it's not blocking any important real estate that's being shown on the dash. So let's take a look starting at the front and kind of working our way back at some of the components that are on this bike. You can see here we've got Rotobox carbon fiber wheels. I mean, the owner's guide actually specifies that stock wheels on this are forged aluminum units, but when you're spending this kind of money on a bike, you can probably just request whatever you want. I say this kind of money, these bikes started at about 108,000 euros or 121,000 US dollars. So definitely a pretty spendy track-only bike here for you. Continuing here, oh, actually, the people always ask when we're posting on social media, what's going on? Why does that have rain slicks or wet slicks? Well, we don't know. We as an economist don't know. It's just how the bike came to us for the service work. But presumably you had the option from Aston Martin to put these on or full-on slicks. So I guess maybe if you're going to ride around the neighborhood or something like that and you want a little bit of tread, you at least have that option with the reins. You have narrowband rotors, which look great. This beautiful Brough Superior caliper. You've got this front end, and I like that in the owner's guide, Aston Martin refers to them as Fior, F-I-O-R, Fior type forks. It's a reference to the gentleman who really pioneered this, Claude Fior, also a Frenchman. We're sensing a bit of a theme here. And it's gone on to inspire other designs like Norman Hossack's funny front end that ended up becoming what BMW used in bikes like the K1200R, the dual lever front end. So it's not a traditional forked bike. It's almost like a girder style there, but you can see the shock tower up front, and it's kind of cool to see it at work. If you've ever ridden a new Honda Goldwing, you kind of get a similar sensation there of in between the bars, you can see the top of the suspension doing its thing. And the fork, as well as the frame, or sorry, the fork and the swing arm, I should say, are CNC'd out of aluminum. The engine is a stressed member of that frame. And I mean, there's just so many CNC and billet parts here. It's really incredible. It's an absolute piece of work when you get to look up close at the details of this bike. Earlier I mentioned that the engine is making 180 horsepower. It also makes about 140 Newton meters of torque. And those are cool numbers, they're great numbers, but really the craziest numbers that you're gonna learn from this bike are gonna be here in the owner's guide where it says scheduled maintenance for track use. Let me just read off a couple of these for you. All right, you do the oil and filter every 5 hours, that's fine. Check your clutch thickness every 10 hours. Replace the timing chain every 10 hours. Check the valve clearance every 10 hours. Some of those things kind of sound normal, some of them maybe a little bit of stretch. Let's continue on to my favorite part. You replace the piston and the head gasket every 20 hours. You do a complete primary transmission replacement with output gearbox, pinion, and rear sprocket. So yes, that is a transmission that gets replaced every 20 hours. This is not a cheap bike to buy. It is not a cheap bike to run. And because of that, I'm not even gonna fire this up. I wanna make sure that we keep it as fresh for the current owner as possible. It sounds like he might be coming over on this weekend to give it a little ride himself. But I will leave you with this. After we did our service work to it, Ollie did take a test ride on it, and we were able to have a little bit of foresight, make sure we filmed that for you. So with that in mind, here's a chance to hear what this bike is like. Enjoy.
Wow, pretty crazy.
What was it like?
It's pretty fun. Sounds great.
It does when you're on it.
And when you go up roll off it, you can hear the turbo.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, don't touch that pipe.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Oh, all right.
Oh, the set screw doesn't work.
Yeah, we'll have to fix that part, no worries. All right, Ollie, seeing as you're one of basically, I don't know, 4 people that have ridden one of these in the world, what should everyone else know?
It's loud, rude, obnoxious, fun, and pretty cool.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
He meant loud, rude, and obnoxious in the best way.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go.